Evening, everybody. Welcome to the February 22nd, 2016 meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And ask everyone to join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Floor is open for public comment. Anything? I hear the door, so we'll just wait one more second.
Nope.
Any public comment? No? Okay. Department head committee items, logging operation bond, etc. I'd like to recognize Public Works Director Tim Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few things, and if the chief would like to go ahead of me, I would yield the floor to the chief so he can get home.
Sounds fine to me.
Selectmen, if you've noticed, the town administrator and I have been out of pocket for the last week or so. We've been in the United States District Court in Concord in the matter of Shane St. Ange versus the town of Weare et al. In essence, this was a trial that we were defending against allegations of excessive force. After a 4 days trial, the jury returned a verdict this evening in favor of the town of Weare. This is an important finding for the town, as you can well imagine. The basic facts of this case were simply that on the night of March 14th, 2012, officers of the Weare Police Department responded to a burglary in progress at a business here in town. On arrival, the desperate business owner was present, and one of the officers remained with him while a second officer went into the building alone in the dark after what was known to be actually a burglary in progress. The man was inside, and you could hear him trashing the inside of the building. Once inside the building, the officer Ken Cox, saw a man hiding in the garage of the business, and transitioned to a less lethal weapon, the taser, an option, less lethal option for us. After ordering the man to surrender multiple times, the man refused, and he was tased. Though the taser had some effect, it did not have complete effect, and the man started to try and slither away, despite the fact that Officer Cox continued to order him to surrender, and he continued to try to get away. Officer Cox tased the man a second time, and they were able to safely take him into custody. This court case took so long because the original complaint included 8 counts against the town of Weare and its police officers. After the first 3 days of testimony, the judge found that there was no evidence of wrongdoing in several of the counts, and that there was no legal basis for several others. 6 of the counts were dismissed after 3 days of testimony. We were left with the remaining 2, which related to force. The reason they remained is simply this. The complainant, or the plaintiff in this case, Mr. St. Ange, was alleging that he was tased, and the town of Weare was saying, yep, he was tased. So it was a matter of the jury having to decide, based on the facts that they heard over the course of 4 days, whether or not that tasing was within the constitutional allowances under federal and state and federal law. Again, they found unanimously on behalf of the town. I'm very happy at this outcome, and I'm very pleased to share it with you. That being said, I don't want to celebrate too long. Frankly, there's always work to be done. There's always opportunities for improvement. I've already spoken with our risk manager at our insurance carrier, and I've come up with a laundry list of things that we're going to start making changes on right away. Fortunately,
Regarding taser policy?
No, sir, there's, no, our taser policy is solid.
Okay.
Which is nice.
And
Our
is-
use of force policies are solid. And much of the, many of the things that we saw as potential issues have already been addressed in new policy. There were some areas where, as I was listening along, that I saw that there was some room for tweaks, minor corrections, that will be handled over the next month or so. All of this is part of our effort at continuous improvement in the pursuit of perfection.
Did the use of force policy and taser policy come up during the trial? I would imagine it did.
Yes, it did. Interestingly, apparently back in 2012, the department had a taser policy, but no use of force policy. And that was subject for some considerable discussion between the parties. That has long since been corrected. In December of 2014, when I first started introducing new policies, all use of force policies were drafted and enacted back in December of 2014. So that the absence of a general use of force policy was corrected.
Did that fact play in at all to the decision, do you think?
No, it didn't. What's interesting is this boiled down to with all of this the peripheral things that went on with this case, and again 4 days of testimony. What it came down to was two men in a dark room on a cold March night in 2012, and the force that was necessary, both reasonable and necessary, to take that one of the men into custody. And that's what it boiled down to completely. Any questions?
Interrupting you as you go.
It's all right. We're going to receive some media attention for this. Last week, when the trial started, WMUR was parked out front. The timing of the verdict this evening was after the 6 o'clock news had started. I've already been in contact with the news director, and we'll reconnect tomorrow.
Were you present during jury selection?
Yes, sir, I was.
Was it hard to find people that didn't have a preconceived opinion of the Weare Police Department at that time, do you think?
I don't know. And I'll say that because the process for selecting the jury was actually fairly interesting. They brought 40 people into the room and randomly selected 14 of those 40 as the jury pool, so to speak. And then the judge read a rather lengthy list of questions about any reason that somebody may have a conflict of interest on this case. You know, whether they knew Mr. St. Andre, if they knew any of the officers, or were familiar with the town of Weare and that type of thing. And if they did, they were able to challenge, or the judge was able to challenge them in private. They took them over to the side. They had music playing, so the rest of us couldn't hear what they were saying. And then he either qualified them as a juror or dismissed them.
So our counsel didn't have the opportunity to dismiss somebody or ask questions of his own, of anyone?
Yes, they did. Once 14 jurors were finally qualified, the jury only needed to be 8 people. So both the plaintiff and the defendant, in this case Mr. St. Ange's attorney and the town's attorney, were able to, what they called a preemptory challenge, without any reason given, or they just simply didn't like the color of the guy's socks. Were able to let them go, and it was whittled down to 8.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy for the town on this. This is a big deal.
So are we.
Okay. Anything else?
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Jim.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tim.
I figured the good news should come first.
Uh-oh.
Trying to soften us up, huh?
Okay, the first item for discussion tonight is there's a logging operation up on Mount Dearborn Road across from the little pond where they have the sugar shack. And that's part of the road which was newly reconstructed last year. So I met with the logger recently. Matter of fact, I met with him the other day. And it is a very small-scale father and son operation. There is no chip boxes going to be hauled in and out of there. It's simply they're going to take log length wood on their own truck, one load per day off the site. And it's going to take about a month to perform the job. They know they're going to be shut down for the posting period, which is upcoming. Actually, it may be coming sooner than people like it due to the weather. And after discussing with him the fact that he had to do certain things to meet my requirements for a driveway permit, I also brought up the fact that there might possibly be a bond requirement for him to be operating on that newly reconstructed road. There will be a top coat placed on that road, but it will wait until the logging operation will be completed, and that's going to be a suggestion I'll have for my successor. In terms of dollars and cents for a bond, I really don't see any major damage to the road happening other than possibly directly at the pinch point where they leave the site and go onto the road. So I believe that a $50,000 bond as was placed on Peasley Road, because that is going to be a large-scale operation with a lot of material, a lot of chip vans, a lot of traffic in and out. I think that job warranted a larger bond. We do not have an actual bond process in place for the town at this time. I think that I could possibly contact municipal our NHMA and see if they have anything on file for us. But at this time, I think either a $5,000 to $10,000 bond for this job would be plenty of money to protect our investment in the road. And the fact that it's a small-scale operation with only one load per day leaving the site, those are his words, I really don't think we need to have anything greater than that. So at this time, in order to move this application forward, I would like to get a bond amount from the board on a recommendation so that we can complete the application and the operation can begin.
I would suggest the 10,000 figure.
Yes. Okay. Want to make that as a motion?
Okay. I move that we require a $10,000 bond for the logging operation on Mount Dearborn Road,
257 Mount Dearborn Road.
at 257 Mount Dearborn Road.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the second item is, if anybody has been down at the gravel pit behind the highway department, there's several old green rusting steel beams down there that were taken out of a bridge job before I began employment here with the town. They have been sitting down there rusting away and flaking off paint since I've been here. A local contractor approached me recently and asked if those steel beams could be purchased from the town because that contractor can use them on a job site. An attempt to sell those beams, I got this information from Naomi, an attempt to sell the beams at least 7 years ago, 6 to 7 years ago, prior to my beginning, yielded prices that were lower than the value of the scrap of those beams at the time.
Right.
So I guess no action was taken at that time. I asked the contractor if the contractor is willing to pay the current scrap value that we get through our NRRA contract, which presently is $75 per ton. Contractor stated yes, and that we would not incur any labor to dispose of them, no cutting of the beams or any physical labor on the part of the town. They would come in, bring a trailer in, we would put them on a trailer with our equipment, and they would leave the site. They have been rusting down there, and the paint's been flaking off onto the town gravel pit property. I researched the sizes and the weights of the beams, and I have the pounds per foot for those beams, so I can get an accurate value of them based on our $75 per ton scrap price with the NRRA. So if the selectmen have no opposition to this, I would suggest that we accept the person's offer and get them off the town property. The revenue would go directly to the general fund. It would, the check would be made out to the town of Weare, and it would go directly into the general fund. I think this is a good thing for the town to get them off the town property and get them off out of there, because I won't say they have lead paint on them, but I would expect that they have lead paint on them. The beams do, because they are painted, and they were painted many, many years ago, and I believe they used lead paint way back when on bridge beams to try to get them to stick and make it last. I think it's a good thing to get them off the town property. So I would like to get permission from the board, if they deem it necessary, to accept the offer and get these beams off the town property.
Entertain a motion if no one wants to make it.
I'll move that we sell the green beams that are located in the gravel pit to the contractor for the rate of current scrap value from NRA, $75 a ton.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
What's gonna be done with the chips of paint?
I'm sorry?
What's gonna be done with the chips of paint once those?
There's very little paint on the ground right now. We're not gonna obviously go pick them all up,
Okay.
but the sooner we get them out of there, the less,
I didn't know if there was a time where it would be shut down for.
no.
I remember this process, I think you probably do too, Tom, when we were
Yeah.
trying to sell those, and
I think we did it more than once.
the discussion was, we can get whatever the rate was at the time for scrap, but then it was labor to torch them, to cut them into pieces, and so that's why we never went anywhere with it, so I think this would be a good thing.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the third thing is, I just want to inform the board that I've been working with the fire chief to identify and properly sign all of the town roads that are missing signs. I did an inventory with the fire chief, and they are the town roads, as well as some of the private roads in town. They should be signed, even the private roads, for emergency services, most effectively for mutual aid calls. If another town comes to Weare and they're looking for a Cottage Road, you don't know where Cottage Road is because there's no signs for it. And we identified probably 30 roads in town that have no signs for either Class 6 town non-maintained roads or private roads in town. And quite honestly, people who live on town roads pay taxes. People who live on private roads pay taxes. And I think they're entitled to make sure emergency services can get to their house even on a private road. So I'm working with the fire chief, and we're going to get these signs ordered and installed hopefully prior to my last day. It's kind of a little pet project of mine to get it done. I have crushing bid and paving bid to go out shortly. I received a letter from the contractor who did our crushing last year, which is Bigfoot Crushing LLC from Weare. They are offering to extend their 2015 bid to 2016 for the identical price as last year's price. I think the prices are low at $2.67 a ton for crushed gravel, and $2.70 a ton for the 1-inch crush, which we will not make any of. We'll only make the 1.25-inch crush. So I would recommend that the board accept the letter from Bigfoot Crushing to extend their bid for one more year, and that way we're good to go for crushing.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Would this be just the second year? We extended it 1 year
I
before?
think you extended it last year as well, Tom.
We did.
I think
So this would be the third year, in my recollection.
At the same price all 3 years?
It's been the same, no matter what the fuel prices have done, or the labor prices, or insurance prices, or anything. He's not offering to, he's offering to keep the price the same. I know fuel has gone down some, but labor costs still go up, and insurance costs still go up, and workman's compensation insurance goes up, so if the board is in agreement, I will recommend it. I will move it forward, but if they do not agree, then we'll have to put it out to bid. I will note that when we did do the paving bid in a prior year, it did go up actually a little bit that year from the request to extend the contractor's bid from the prior year. But that's just a shot in the dark.
Any other thoughts on that?
I'll make a motion that we extend Bigfoot Crushing's bid for the crushed stone.
How much was it?
$2.67 for 1.5 inch crushed gravel.
Is that 1.5 inch minus?
That can be part of it.
And
That's
two,
for 1
and
year.
$2.70 for 1 inch crush?
$2.77 for the 1 inch minus crush. 10 cents.
An inch and a half
What is
is,
1 inch minus? Is that how it goes? 1 inch?
inch and a half.
There's inch and a half minus and 1 inch minus,
1 inch
two different
minus.
products.
What does that mean?
That means the
What does the
stone
minus
is,
mean?
is inch and a half or smaller.
Yeah.
Smaller.
Right.
Nothing any larger than an
Right.
inch and a half stone, is it?
Minus.
Won't fit
Because you
the
can't
sieve.
make it all
Yeah.
the same, because when
They
a
don't-
rock
They
breaks,
they don't measure each
it
rock.
breaks into little sizes.
Be expensive.
And those little fines are actually what make it all lock together. If you didn't have the fines, it wouldn't hold together.
It's 267 per ton.
And that was for 1 year?
For 1 year.
1 year.
And that was ton or
Was
yard?
that seconded?
Ton.
Per ton
Ton.
or yard?
This is per ton.
Okay.
They use a belt scale and
Mm-hmm.
they convert
Yeah, there
the
is a difference.
yardage to tonnage.
Was there a second?
Selectman Bowl seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last quick item is the asphalt bids are going to be requested soon. I've been formulating a list of roads for work this year to add to what was proposed in the road reconstruction plan. And I don't have it with me, but I do, I think I have it memorized. In addition to top coat on Mount Dearborn Road, we're gonna be doing most all of Deer Haven for reconstruction. We will be paving the cul-de-sac on Brown Ridge Road, which was extended to accommodate those lots on Brown Ridge. We will be paving a little road called Bog Hill, which is across from Merrill Road and Rockland Road, across 77 off of Walker Hill. That was a tar road and it was in deplorable condition. So we went over there as a highway crew, we just tore all the pavement out, brought it down to the pit for crushing. We replaced we replaced the culvert and replaced all the gravel, so we're going to put the pavement back on that road, which we took it off of. I have tentatively reconstruction of Mount William Pond Road from the boat ramp, I guess you'd call it, by Jockey Brown's house, down to about 30 feet past Pondview, and then all of Pondview as well. And then there's a shim and overlay project plan to finish Mount William Pond down to the end where the last home is on Mount William Pond, and possibly shim and overlay a piece of Walker Hill Road in the vicinity of Salmon Road up Walker Hill, where the old farmer's mix is all just torn apart from age. We'd have to put some under draining up there, but that will be a shim and overlay project. So
What was that one?
That-
Overlay on what?
Walker Hill.
Walker Hill. So it's a very aggressive plan. I'm trying to get the pavement to where I reach a $300,000 threshold for actual paving costs. That would leave the rest, the $180,000 differential in the reconstruction line to crush gravel, to buy culvert pipe, to buy fabrics and do other things in the road reconstruction line. We generally speaking, we have been spending just up to or somewhere in the vicinity of $300,000 per year for paving over the last 4 years. So I'm trying to use a threshold there so that I can get as much on the list as possible for the year 2016. And that's the end of it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything for me?
I had a question and I forgot it.
Oh, I'll stand right here.
No, that's okay. I'll remember it once you're gone, so.
Have you had any applicants for your position?
I do not have that information. They are going directly to Naomi.
And there's envelopes, I don't have the count or anything, I want to talk about that a little bit, while you brought it up. Not sure how you want to proceed, I honestly don't know how many there is. Do you want to see them all, do you want, I guess let's talk about the process, can we do that?
Can Tim go through them? Or no?
Well, we talked about that, and I think Tim and I talked about it, that's why he just pointed at me, because he was going to distance a little bit, so, I can bring them to the board, because it's the board's choice.
How many are we
There's
talking?
probably, just on return envelopes, there's probably 4 to 6 people that live here in town. I haven't qualified anybody, I haven't looked at them, you know what I mean, just from the return addresses, so I don't know. This is what I could do, I could open them tomorrow, scan them all, send them to you, let's have a discussion.
Now,
Because that's manageable, I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
do you want to distance yourself because, why do you want to distance
I
yourself?
wanted to make sure that Naomi reviewed them first. She would do the first run-through, and she could look at the folks' qualifications and past experience and such.
As to what, we set out what we wanted, and if you don't have those, then you go in this pile.
Right.
You know, that's
You
all
had-
I was doing.
If you had any specific areas that you wanted questions fashioned, and I'd be happy to work with Naomi to fashion some questions.
Hmm.
It's not that I don't want to be a part of the process, I just want to make sure whatever part I'm in is agreed upon by everyone at the table here, and I'm not forcing myself
Mhm.
on the process.
I wouldn't mind if you, and this is just me personally, I wouldn't mind if Tim were present during the interview process, so that if we had questions on
Related to the job.
people's answers, and whether, in your opinion, it sounded like they really knew what they were talking about, or they were giving us a snow job and we're too dumb to figure it out.
I think, sort of going along with what Tim said, we should have a very definitely defined role that we would want you to be in, so that it doesn't come back on you as being the person who rejected a given candidate. Because if they're going to get angry, it should be at us, not at you.
He's
So,
leaving.
yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for the kind words. We trimmed all the trees on your road today.
I saw
think I'm
that,
gonna
yeah,
have to-
now I have no
I
privacy
think I'm gonna
anymore.
have to, yeah, we didn't cut enough trees in front of your house.
All the lights coming right in my yard.
They won't scrape the side of your car, that was the plan.
Did he land on his car, or?
People driving by my house, I don't.
Piling them in this driveway as we.
You know, I think Tim has wanted to be part of, as we had asked, but he also, I can understand his point, we've had this conversation, that if somebody, you know, if you want to interview somebody, then it shouldn't be his or my choice, but I think I could honestly go through them, I haven't, and I think I could narrow them down to what's manageable, 4 or 5 do you want to interview?
Even if it ends up being 6,
Yep.
I think we can manage that.
You have some, now, I mean, we didn't talk about keeping close, but I'm assuming there's a couple that have addresses in Alexandria, New Hampshire, or Wentworth, New Hampshire. I don't know, I mean, I gotta look at things a little deeper, I'm just looking at the return addresses right now. So I guess I'll look at that before I say anything more.
If I could go back to your question, Keith, if you did ask me to sit in on an interview, and you did have questions about an answer, I would prefer that those questions be written maybe and not addressed in a face-to-face fashion. I certainly wouldn't want to make someone look bad in an interview by saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about.
I guess the way I was thinking about
I wouldn't
it.
want to do that.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about it is you would sit and listen, and after they left, we could, as we
That'd
all
be
talked,
fine,
you'd be
that'd
part
be
of the
fine.
discussion.
Which is what you guys did with, I'll just say with me. You had 2 gentlemen from Primex stay in the back, and I had the hot seat, and then I left, and I don't know if you had conversation or not, but I'm just saying there was 2 observers in the back.
We do that
That's
with
that's
everybody.
what I was envisioning.
I can't
We
find
do
my
that with
questions.
everybody,
Huh?
basically.
You can't.
Right, but I know
don't
that,
think
that's what I mean.
I'll look at
Yeah,
it.
Tim would be part of that project.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started out saving everything, but then I
Yeah,
went to,
I
that Naomi has that anyway, so I'll just pass it away. And
thank you for your confidence, but I haven't located it yet. The
What's that?
questions that we used when Tim was,
No, I mean in general,
oh,
not about those particular ones, but.
no, I know we had a list of questions when we interviewed when Tim,
Hmm.
and I just haven't located that questions yet.
Would you be inclined to try to group interviews on a Saturday or something to
That's what we
Bring-
did before.
Yeah.
bring the candidates in one fell swoop and not
That's what we
Right.
did when we gave
Right,
you
I
like an
understand.
hour in between.
Because in order to stick to a schedule, we really do need to keep moving
Mhm. Sure.
right now at this point.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I remembered my question.
Go ahead.
Quick.
Should I have
The
that?
progress on the no-through trucking discussion with a map of the roads of Weare. I'd like to get that at least
I
started with your input before.
The three of you started, but I know things have,
sat with the two chiefs.
yeah.
And we had a preliminary meeting, and there was a few questions that came up. I don't remember exactly, I don't have my notes with me. But if I can be completely blunt, I'm afraid that any type of no-through trucking suggestions are going to just shift traffic onto another road.
Well, yeah, they would.
And then the folks who get that traffic are gonna be impacted. I think the bigger question needs to be, if it's an out-of-town source of trucking, and it wants to go from Route 149 to Route 114 by way of Hodgson and Thorndike, I think that's when you have to develop some sort of an ordinance, because they're just using the town road as a shortcut. If it's a Weare contractor who is working on, like one of the local fellows that would use that to get to their gravel pit or something, you can't say you can't use that road.
But that's kind of what I thought the term no-through trucking meant. Is
Through
it-
trucking is a funny word, Keith, because it implies, you have to get the definition of through trucking. Is through trucking within town? Is it from town to town? Is it 3 towns? I don't know the exact answer. I think the chief of the police department would have to advise us that, because under New Hampshire law, I'm sure there's something that states that clearly. I'm just afraid that any conclusions that we draw are gonna have a group over here angry at us, where a group over here is pleased with the conclusion. And if we don't draw the conclusion, then these people are angry, and then these people over here are relieved because, well, the trucks are not coming on my road now.
I think any decision we make, in general, that's the case. But I guess the way I was hoping this would go would be, we would have a map of Weare and all the roads, and we would identify roads that are appropriate to get through town, and pretty much say whatever those were, and then pretty much say the rest of the roads, unless work is generated on those roads, there's no reason to cut through those roads to get through onto wherever you're going.
And they're very limited, to be quite honest. If you start thinking about those types of roads, it's a very limited number of roads
I
here
would
in
have
town.
thought so too, yeah.
Extremely limited. Pretty much limited to 2 roads.
2 or
Great,
maybe 3.
yeah.
I mean, if you look at Gould Road, that's a major cut
That's
through, but
one.
it's a truck route because of the businesses that are, Jim knows. If you go to Colby Road, that's a cut through from River Road up to 114, but very few people use it because of the steep hill that's in the middle of Colby Road. Hodgson and Thorndike are the big elephant in the room. Reservoir, we don't even put up posted signs in the wintertime because the traffic comes from Deering down through the length of Reservoir to get to 114. It's the only way to get out of that part of Deering to get to 114. But if you're coming from the other side on Route 149, there is another way to get to 114, and that is to use the state highway down to the Country Three Corners area and intersect the highway down there. It's just that it's convenient and it's flat and it's smooth to run Hodgson, Thorndike, and Reservoir to get over to the northern end of 114 to go up.
But is it appropriate?
That is probably the only real road that is the no-through trucking candidate for the town of Weare, quite honestly.
Well, making that turn.
And that's fine, but the discussion started there,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea was not to just limit it to being reactionary to that one, but to look at the global look at the whole town. And if that turns out to become a no-through trucking road as a result of studying the entire town, then so be it, but not just to do that one in a vacuum, and for the same reasons you just said.
So I'll talk to the two chiefs about the roads I just mentioned to this board. We'll come up with some sort of a written statement, hopefully, and supply it to you, and you can act on that written statement if that's satisfactory.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Meeting minutes. January 25th.
you get them all?
I got 'em.
I had a few little things on page 3.
Okay, we'll start with page 2 then.
What says Alexander Petoulas?
Mm-hmm.
Says probably caused violations and probably caused, and it'd be probable.
Yep.
That's all I have.
You said just once?
That's, yeah.
On 3, the paragraph that starts, Mr. Parker, just the last line, a maintenance agreement was outlined, just put a T on outline. Then number 3, down below there, near the end of the first line on 3, every once in a while, not just ever once in a while. Then the paragraph that starts, Mrs. Walton asked how they addressed, I inserted the word "it," if Mr. Parker might retire. Asked how they addressed it. And then the line just above the bold print that starts with the Waltons, I just crossed out the word "a," selectmen's meeting before the ZBA. Just as the word "a" is kind of hanging in there for no reason. Before the word "before." That's what I had on page 3.
What else?
Page 4, under administrative report, first paragraph next to the last line, just make Prime into Primex, pays the fees.
Where was that?
See where it says administrative report,
Oh, yep.
and then the second paragraph, third line.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Move to accept the January 25th, 2016 minutes as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll take it.
Did you pick up all of
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't know if I corrected the spelling properly on probable. You might wanna-
That was page 2.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I ended up with probably rather than, did I get probable?
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
Okay. Minutes for February 1st.
I had just one correction. Page 2, it's been a warm December, about halfway down. I just crossed out not unusual. Didn't make sense. The board discussed the construction debris, and then in the last line, I just put a period after December.
Yep. I had on page 1, assigned speaking roles for deliberative session. The first sentence, I don't think it, TOO would be the proper spelling of two in that context, am I right?
Remember it was
Maybe just
two.
two,
Just
T,
2-0.
T0,
Yeah.
T-O,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not 0.
It wasn't also.
Anything else? Anybody make a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of February 1st as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You get those, Tom?
Yeah, sure.
And minutes of February 8th.
I just had a couple of things on the first page. In the paragraph under, that starts with Mike and Yvonne Walton. Fourth line down, it says, over the past few couple, I crossed out the word few. We only need one, it could be few, could be
Something new.
couple.
Few couple.
That's 6.
Well, past couple of weeks, they crossed out a few, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just crossed out the word few. And then, on the next line down, the Waltons, I took out the apostrophe. That's all I had. No, I have something on the next page. Under the, motion,
Which page?
page 2, I inserted the word when on the last line, prior to when any timbering operation begins. Because it didn't sound right to say prior to any timbering operation begins.
Anything else? Entertain a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of February 8th as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Oh, yeah. Pay no attention.
Had to be there, it was a good one.
I underlined it for my own thinking, and then I thought, oh, it's gonna look like a correction.
Okay.
Looking for a schedule. I printed out, same time as the minutes.
There it is.
Construction schedule?
I'll need it for the
Manifest. I move we order the treasurer to sign the accounts payables and payroll checks dated February 25th, 2016, as included in the following manifest. Payroll manifest of $52,168.75 for the weekly payroll, including payroll taxes. Accounts payables manifest of $78,743.39 for a total manifest of $130,912.14. The following manifests were previously ordered to sign at the February 8th, 2016 Board of Selectmen meeting. A payroll manifest of $50,808.96 for the weekly payroll, including elections check date February 18th, 2016. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Administrative report.
And I apologize, I don't have one for you, but I could briefly, just give you a couple things. We talked about the director position, which was 6. The, Chimenti property, which is the Horse Hill Spring one, have you all been there yet? Which is-
Barnard Hill.
Off of Barnard Hill.
Mhm.
Have you all been there to look at what's there?
I think-
You haven't? Would you, just so we can have that conversation?
Mhm.
Town report and mailer, we're in good shape. We should have the mailer back the middle of the week, so it can go out for candidates night.
It'll go before then.
Yeah. And, there is one, Tim's hanging around because there's a, I guess a discussion that needs to take place regarding a memorandum of understanding between the Teamsters of the DPW and the town, which constitutes a non-meeting, so Tim wanted to just stick around if we weren't gonna be too late for that discussion. So, other than that, and Tim and Sean shared the news where I've been the last few days, so I apologize.
Alright. Public comment? Correspondence? Other business? Alright, move to adjourn?
Second.
Because we have a non-meeting, Tim, don't look puzzled.